Welcome back. Today we're going to be going over chapter 6 of Priscilla Presley's book, Softly as I Leave You. So Priscilla starts this chapter talking about Lisa Marie's upbringing from her youth and, into her teenage years. And she says that raising her, especially as a teenager, was worrisome. That despite Lisa's sense of entitlement, she was actually a really shy, insecure kid. Priscilla says, while Elvis's love for Lisa Marie was more lavish, Priscilla's parenting style was more focused on her commitment to careful parenting. She always put Lisa Marie first. Priscilla says that Lisa was the typical teen who didn't like school, didn't understand why she had to go to school, that she felt that school was just completely pointless. And Priscilla says that Lisa never socially fit in, and Lisa was just always looking for new experiences. Priscilla says that getting Lisa to go to school was such a struggle that she had tried enrolling her in different schools to see if that would help. And at one point, she had even considered moving to Switzerland to enroll Lisa in a boarding school there. But Lisa had failed that entrance exam, just like she had failed every other class at every other school. And Priscilla says that Lisa wasn't failing these exams because of a lack of intelligence, because she was able to master her Scientology courses. I guess those courses, she says, were really difficult. So it wasn't due to a lack of intelligence. Lisa just didn't like school. So this chapter kind of is all over the place. It kind of jumps from one thing to another. So at this point in the chapter, Priscilla talks about how when Elvis passed away, all Lisa Marie wanted to do was be back at Graceland. She just wanted to go to Graceland and spend time with her family and friends there. And she says because Elvis had passed away so young, Lisa held this quote romanticized view on her childhood. Priscilla says that because Lisa Marie was impulsive and didn't always make the best decisions and use good judgment, that Priscilla kept a very careful eye on her and to try and keep Lisa out of the public eye. Priscilla closely monitored Lisa Marie's whereabouts, so much so that she would actually call the parents of Lisa's friends who she said she was going to go hang out with. And she said luckily she liked most of Lisa's friends. But boys, on the other hand, she said that's a different issue. Priscilla says she broke the generational cycle of avoiding the birds and bees talk with her kids, because her mom didn't do that with her. And so when Lisa hit puberty, she sat her down and had the talk. She was terrified of Lisa getting pregnant. She says Lisa was into the bad boy type, the ones that rode motorcycles and wore leather jackets. Those are her words, not mine. And she describes one time when a boy went to pick up Lisa to take her out. This boy showed up he had long hair, wearing a leather jacket. He showed up in a limo. And she knew his parents were wealthy, but she had a really bad feeling about him. And Lisa thought it was just because of the way the kid looked. But Priscilla says it was because he came off as rude and entitled. So she put her foot down about Lisa not seeing this kid. Priscilla then takes this opportunity to just tell a little side story. She says when Lisa Marie was 14 years old, she started wearing really sexy outfits that upset Priscilla. So one day when Lisa Marie came down wearing a very revealing outfit, Priscilla went back to her own bedroom and changed into a very revealing outfit too, complete with bare midriff. Lisa was really embarrassed and vocalized her displeasure about her mom's tummy showing. But Priscilla refused to change outfits, pointing out to Lisa that they were wearing similar outfits. She says she then went out, she went out to the street and then stuck her thumb out like as if she was hitchhiking to Lisa Marie's horror. So Priscilla says after that, Lisa got the point. Priscilla says when Lisa was 10 years old, Priscilla started dating Michael Edwards. He was a model who she had described as one of the most handsomest men she had ever seen next to Elvis Presley. She also says that Edwards was very outgoing. He was attentive and was usually the life of the party. He ended up moving in with Lisa and Priscilla. Priscilla says that her parents never liked Edwards. They never gave a specific reason why. They just didn't trust him. They didn't like him. And she talks about this one time where her parents were walking out to their car, and Edwards said to Anne, her Her mom didn't grow up with a lot of public displays of affection. She wasn't like a huggy person. Edward said to Anne, "You need a hug. You need to know how much you're cared for." And with that, he got her in a big bear hug. Anne was clearly uncomfortable, repeatedly telling him to let her go, but he refused. Even when Priscilla started to protest on her mother's behalf to let her go. And he finally let her go, and Priscilla says after that, Anne made sure to keep her distance from Edwards. Priscilla says that she worried about Edwards flirting with other women. His jobs would often have him surrounded by these beautiful women, and sometimes these shoots took place out of town or out of state. Priscilla said that she had visited him on one of these shoots that were out of town, and she had noticed 2 wine glasses that were partially filled. They were under the bar. And she got suspicious, and she asked him about it. Why does he need 2 wine glasses? And he kind of brushed it off. But she later found out that he did indeed have another woman on that trip. Priscilla says that Edwards even started to take these secret trips out of town behind her back. And he would just disappear for days at a time. And when he would come back, he would apologize profusely. And he would deny being, somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be, or with someone who wasn't supposed to be with. She wanted to believe him, even though she was really, really suspicious. Priscilla then says that on one work trip that she had, Edwards had a right to be suspicious of her. So Priscilla traveled to Chile to be interviewed by Julio Iglesias. This was at a festival called Festival de Viña del Mar. She said Julio, who was very handsome, was very attentive to her once he realized that she didn't speak any Spanish. She only spoke English. And that he watched over her to make sure that she didn't get lost. He would translate for her. And one night they both went to a club. And afterward, he invited her up to his room for a drink. And she calls herself a slow learner. She accepted, not thinking about any expectations that there may have been once she got up there. She says that once she did get up to the room, she realized that Julio had a romantic evening planned for them. She says that she was very tempted, and it dawned on her that Julio reminded her of like a Latino version of Elvis. He was handsome, charismatic, charming, magnetic, all of that. And she got to thinking how that, if she got involved with Julio Iglesias, that it would be the same thing. She'd be going through the same thing that she did with Elvis, that there would be a line of women wanting to have a fling with him, wanting to be in her shoes. So when Julio finally made his move, she actually turned him down, and she said that he was surprised, probably because that he thought she knew when accepting that drink to go up at his room and accepting that offer, she knew what was going to happen. And then she said that he was probably also surprised at her rejection because he just wasn't used to being turned down. So she traveled back home to LA the next day with her, quote, heart intact, because she didn't do anything, but that Edwards didn't believe it anyway. Shortly after the Julio incident, Priscilla and Michael Edwards were at a party, and O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown were there. She said that it seemed that Nicole didn't know anybody because she was standing there meekly. She was quiet. Eventually, O.J. came up to say hello to Priscilla and Edwards. And Priscilla asked, "How's Nicole?" And she says O.J. stared at her intensely in the eyes and said, "Let me worry about Nicole. Nicole is doing fine." Priscilla said that O.J.'s intensity frightened her. So a little while later during the party, Nicole was standing alone. She was standing there alone. So Priscilla went up to say hello to her and then moved on to talk to other people. And Michael Edwards had stayed to speak with Nicole. I guess they somehow knew each other. That's what Priscilla's saying. They somehow knew each other, probably through modeling. A couple minutes later, Priscilla looks up and she sees OJ approaching Edwards. And OJ grabs Edwards by the throat, lifts him up where Edwards is on his tippy toes, and Edwards starts choking. And OJ said to Edwards, "You effing stay away from her," and then let him go. Priscilla said her jaw was on the floor. She was just speechless. and that when Edwards came back to her, he was shaking like a leaf. Priscilla says that she was not surprised when OJ was charged with killing Nicole years later, because that night she got a glimpse of a murderer. Priscilla says that Michael Edwards became a different person when he would drink alcohol. She tells a story about one night when they were out at a restaurant eating dinner with Priscilla's mom and Lisa Marie. Edwards was already tipsy and he was getting bored, so he excused himself to go use the restroom upstairs. She says a few minutes later, she hears this commotion. She hears other diners like laughing and looking at the stairs, so she takes a look. And there is Michael Edwards completely naked, save for a napkin he was holding over his junk. He was walking down the steps to the tune of the music that was playing over the speakers. Lisa Marie said to her, "Oh my God, mommy, wanting it to stop." And her mom was just fixated, just, what would you do, right? And all Priscilla could think of was, please don't drop the napkin. Luckily, when he got to the bottom of the stairs, he turned around and went back up. Priscilla says that Lisa Marie was very possessive of her, because with Elvis passing, Priscilla was all that Lisa Marie had left. And that initially, Lisa Marie was very jealous of Michael Edwards, just like she had been jealous of any man that was in Priscilla's life at any point after Elvis. At Christmas, for example, Michael Edwards had given Priscilla her gift, and Priscilla gushed over it. And Lisa said, "What about my gift? You like his present better than you like mine." And Priscilla had to assure her no, that was not true. Priscilla says that the jealousy eventually eased, and Lisa Marie began to enjoy spending time with Michael. If Priscilla held one hand, Lisa Marie wanted to hold his other hand. And if they sat on the couch together, she wanted to sit in between them. Priscilla says that, so I'm gonna quote this here, because she says, quote, "It gradually dawned on me that she had developed a schoolgirl crush on him," end quote. So Priscilla says when Lisa Marie was 14, Priscilla's life as she knew it, was shattered. Priscilla had just come back from a business trip, and Lisa Marie told her that the night before, Edwards had come into her room and pulled back the covers to look at Lisa Marie in her nightgown. He thought she was sleeping, and that this made Lisa Marie very uncomfortable. Priscilla had asked if Edwards had done that before, and Lisa said no. Priscilla asked, "Did he ever touch you, at any point?" And Lisa said no. So Priscilla confronts Edwards, and he denies it. He says, "Look, I was just checking in on Lisa, and I didn't pull her covers back. I actually pulled it up to tuck her in." Priscilla says she wanted to believe him, that it was plausible that probably happened. And Priscilla says Lisa sometimes made up stories to get attention, but she says that this time just felt different. And they had a, quote, family discussion about it. After the family discussion, things were temporarily smoothed over, but that she kept a very close eye on things while she tried to figure out what to do with this. After pondering for some time, she had just come to the realization that it was a risk having Edwards in the house. And she told Lisa that she was going to kick Edwards out. Lisa became distraught and was saying, "No, Mom, no, like nothing happened." Priscilla said that Lisa even wrote a letter to her advocating on Edwards not being kicked out. So I'm going to read it to you. So the letter reads as this, quote, this is from Lisa, remember, quote, "You mustn't forget Michael Edwards. You're forever to be. I know you love him, maybe not all the time, but deep inside when you say you hate him, you really love him, just like you really love me," end quote. So Priscilla says she's very confused because Lisa said that Edwards had done something that made her uncomfortable, and then turns around and says that she doesn't want Edwards to be kicked out of the house. So although she was confused, she says that what she did understand was that there was something very wrong with his feelings toward Lisa Marie. So she decided to ask him to leave, to move out. So Priscilla says that it was difficult getting Edwards out of the house because he kept denying any wrongdoing and saying that Lisa was wrong about that night. Priscilla struggled for a long time on whether or not she was making the right decision, if she was being fair. But she said that she knew she had to protect her daughter. 4 years later, Edwards ends up publishing a book. And here's what he wrote about Lisa in his book. I'm going to quote it. He says, quote, "I'd always thought of Lisa as a daughter, but now I was engulfed by a stronger emotion. Like every father who has ever seen a beautiful daughter through puberty, I found it difficult to keep a grip on my emotions." End quote. Then he goes on to say, and I'm going to quote this again, quote, "wanted to pour my heart out to Lisa and beg Priscilla to understand how much I cared for Lisa. The feelings I had for her, I knew I would never have for another. I wanted to take her in my arms and love her right there in the bed her mother and I shared." End quote. Reminder, he felt this way about Lisa when she was 12. Gross. Priscilla says a couple years after the book was published, Edwards' book was published, he had called her and said that he regretted writing the book. And she thinks he didn't regret his behavior. He just regretted putting it in a book. She said that when she read what he had written about Lisa Marie, she was sickened. And had she known how he actually felt about Lisa Marie, she would have kicked him out years before. She adds that if Elvis had been alive when all this happened, one thing was for certain: Michael Edwards would not have been calling her about regrets with his book. Elvis would have shot him. Priscilla says that she thought that that was the end to a very painful chapter in her life and Lisa's life after Edwards moved out. But 40 years later, when Lisa Marie published her own autobiography, that's when Priscilla learned that Edwards had been touching her inappropriately for years. She said it stunned her, but she was still confused why Lisa Marie would advocate on his behalf to not kick him out. She was still confused by it. Priscilla struggles to make peace with Lisa's words, but because all of this came to light after Lisa's passing, Priscilla knows that she can't get any closure on this because they can't talk about this together. Terrible all around. That does it for chapter 6. Stay tuned for chapter 7, where Priscilla discusses the start of her acting career and also her decision to put Lisa into rehab. I'll see you then.